I need to... Do you usually have that window open?
No, but usually like in this. Wow, bonjour, we are live. On est 5, 6. Ici, salut tout le monde. Say hello in the chat if you're here.
Bonjour à tous.
Right, Kyle, my flatmate, is right here next to me. We'll have some fun to celebrate 3,000 of us, including me, of course, you know, on this channel. Yeah, it's going to be fun chatting to some of you. So we're going to sort of just have some small talk, wait for some people to come in. I'm going to close this window because it's a bit dark.
I'm very impressed with Alex. He put this all together so quickly.
Too quickly. Hey, Google, all the way up. There we go, that's better.
That's way better.
So who do we have? Bonjour to the 3 people that are here. Do say hello in the chat. I'm excited to chat to some of you. Solène, coucou les mecs. Right, Solène, lovely. You are the first or second person. That's what I expect. Fantastic.
Coucou Solène.
Motown and more. Hello from the UK. Who is that? What is your name? Or shall we call you Motown? Est-ce que tu t'appelles Motown officiellement?
Motown is Detroit, baby.
Yeah, that's Kyle's hometown. Oliver. Enchanté, Oliver. Welcome.
Salut.
Bienvenue. Yes. Oh, I must admit, I'm a bit out of breath because I left it too late to go and get some beers, and the shop was closed. Les magasins étaient fermés, so I had to go a bit further to find some. But I ended up getting this Goudal,
J'adore.
which I think we both like, La Goudal. Very pretty French beer.
Moi, je bois le Glenbergen Pale Ale. Santé.
Santé, chin.
Chin.
Chin. And what have you guys got in your hand? Have you got something tasty? Why is this chat so small?
Awesome. That's really cool, Oliver. I don't personally know the Marvelettes, but I'm curious now.
And that's a French name as well, Marvelette. You can, you know, that's
Yeah.
well, it comes from French at least at some point. So there's that connection. We've got Detroit, France, French,
UK.
yeah, coming around here. Oliver, you might be the special guest today.
Missing link.
Yeah. I just started learning French. It's about touch and go. Yeah. You got to push through that. Keep going and just enjoy the process at the beginning, because now is when you just soak up everything and everything is useful, and just use it as you go and enjoy it. But thank you for being here. How did you find me? Solène, santé. Solène, qu'est-ce que tu bois?
Oui.
Qu'est-ce que tu bois,
C'est mon question
Solène?
aussi.
So
Conjugation.
yeah,
Je
conjugation,
suis d'accord avec toi. Vraiment.
Ouais. On est tous les deux d'accord avec toi. Something that English speakers, I think, particularly. De l'eau alcoolisée, j'espère. Non, c'est pas grave.
And of course, there's your Instagram channel that Oliver found you.
On Instagram, cool. All right. Well, thank you for being here. This is my first. Although it's 3,000, I haven't done a live on YouTube until now, for no particular reason. But I'm just getting used to all the different platforms and the best place to connect with everyone. So I thought today would be a good idea to just do a bit of a casual chit chat to answer any questions about French, about learning French, about living in France, perhaps hear your funny stereotypes that you have about French people, because that's a very common thing to have, perception to have, that, you know, I certainly had heard of several before moving to France, and then you come to France and realize some of them are true, some of them are complete bullshit, as the French would say in their French accent. So yeah, what was some stereotypes that you know about about French people?
About French people?
Yeah.
Oh, well, you know, the biggest one is that they're rude, which I don't really agree with, and that they have no patience or tolerance for people who can't speak French, which if you're trying, they actually most of the time are very patient. So yes, and cheese and wine is their life source. I agree, Andy. What's up, dude?
Yeah. Hey, Andy. Thanks for joining us.
And so then I didn't cut my hair, actually. I just I did my hair. I brushed it.
Oliver says stuck up and complains.
Yes. Complainers. Yes.
They do like to complain, and even in a way, they're actually accepting of it. They embrace, which is quite nice. They embrace as part of their culture. But I did meet someone who had left France to live in the States, and she said, she didn't realize how much more positive she'd become since leaving France and going to the US. And then when she came back, she very easily slipped into that circle of just râler, which means to complain, to moan in French. On râle, on râle, on râle. And it's just a pastime that the French do. Mm-hmm. And she's like, she didn't like it because it just kind of got to her very easily. And she's like, I don't want to live in that sort of negative outlook. Be happy complaining.
Maybe something like, Americans, they like to gossip and they just kind of talk shit about each other all the time. Like, did you hear this? Did you hear this? And maybe it's, in a way what French do about complaining about their life, I heard that, they always think that it could be better. Like even in school, they were taught, it's good, but it could be better. And that has like settled in culturally. But when I express my gratitude for living in France, for the different social systems or the things that I really like about their culture, their food, etc., I'm saying it, compared to America, I really love this about France. And they're like, oh yeah, you're right. That's quite nice. C'est bien ça.
Yeah, c'est bien ça. C'est bien ça. I like that you make a good point, sort of indirectly, that us being foreigners here. I don't know how you feel about this, but I like the fact that just being here and the things we would tend to say or talk about is not so usual for them, because most of the time they hang out with people from their own country, their own culture. And so the things we say, either deliberately or inadvertently, makes them think about the things that they say, which might be a bit strange to other people. Mm. And I like being a foreigner and challenging people in a nice way like that, because it can all make us better, right? In any way, if we are challenged on things that we've just grown up with, which might not be the way it is, the way we assume it is.
Just don't think about it.
Just don't think about it. Yeah.
Like a habit. C'est une habitude.
Ouais, exactement. C'est une habitude. What else have we got in the comments? Yeah, we've had stuck-up complainers, big drink as well. Oliver, you seem to have a lot of notions of French people, but you did stay in Bordeaux for a year, so that's more than enough time to get to grips with the real French culture. Bordeaux is a beautiful city.
Magnifique.
Ouais, magnifique. Right. And Kim says hi. Hey Kim, how you doing? Where are you joining us from today? I know you're Welsh, aren't you? Or at least you learned Welsh, right? So whereabouts are you? Let me know. I don't think I've ever asked you. The wind is causing chaos in the flat and blowing things around. So yeah, French stereotypes. They're most of them are not true. And the things about them being stuck up and rude, I find probably particularly come from people who spent a little bit of time in Paris and not too much more. Mm. So they've had a very brief glimpse, and it's in a stressful city. And just by chance, they may have come across people who weren't particularly polite. But
I think they're very confident and proud of their French culture and their food. So, they talk about the fact that all of their agriculture is fresh and much better than the American food. I got that a lot when I first arrived. Mm. So, in a way, some of it is good, that they're very kind of cocky about their stuff, but then at the same time, they're they're complaining. It's like this.
Is the right word a dichotomy? I'm not sure. But yeah, I feel like they're very proud of their food because they do have reason for that. They do have a better nutritional education just growing up. I think they learn what good food is, like good for your diet, good for your body. Although you can have great food from the States or from the UK, a lot of it's unhealthy, pretty bad. And the French generally eat better.
Yeah. I mean, like the typical diet, I think, is much healthier here than in the US. I mean, clearly, if you look at the obesity rates, it's astonishing. But it's also weird because the French just eat cheese and bread and pastries, and they love their sweet breakfast. But their base diet, I would say, is much healthier.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, look, we had a question that we missed from Solène. She said, Kyle, how did you cut your hair during the confinement?
I answered. I said,
Sorry.
I said I didn't. I just did it. I brushed my hair, and apparently it looks much better.
It just falls into place. Yeah. I haven't seen the Superman dangled bit.
It's coming. It's getting really long. Yeah, I've actually already booked my appointment with mon coiffeur, my barber, for the end of confinement. And thankfully, he's got a lot of rules set up. We're going to require a mask, like all of this stuff, sanitation as soon as you arrive. But it's already scheduled.
Yeah, I don't have that issue. I don't have to worry about that. But I can totally empathize with people who, they feel they don't feel at their best. They don't feel that they look their best. And when you don't feel you look your best, you don't feel right in your own skin, right? So you just want to spruce up and feel more you.
Yeah, it's also just a hassle when it gets too long and out of control.
Yeah, and there's that social opportunity as well, right? Yeah, which a lot of us are sorely missing. Mais oui, on est en plein confinement ici en France, in plain lockdown, full lockdown in France, and we're all quite excited for things to be loosened up in terms of regulation on the 11th. I hope it's similar to where you guys are at the moment, but of course the main thing is to be following the advice and to stay safe, no matter how frustrating it can be. But I think I'm benefiting today from having more of you here because you're more likely to be stuck at home. So thank you for joining us today. Just to reiterate, it is for 3,000 subscribers on YouTube, and that is a number that a year ago seemed, I know it's quite cliche to say I never thought I would get there, but I wasn't able to let it cross my mind because it was just so slow to grow. But I keep wanting to put out the videos which have valuable advice for you guys learning French, who are coming up against obstacles that I face. And I know it's so challenging to get to where you want to be in French. And sometimes you can feel like you're not getting anywhere. So it means the world to me that you guys find my help valuable and have decided to opt in for updates from me every week. And so I would love to speak to as many of you as possible today. So don't hesitate to chime in the chat and give your comments and your questions. We'll try and answer as many of them as possible before the end. Don't know how long we're going to be here. I told Kyle he can just get up and leave us and come back if he wants. It's not meant to be something strict. We both got a beer, and yeah, I hope you guys are having a relaxing samedi. All right. Well, why don't we dive into a question, which I think maybe both of which I had before on Instagram. A few of you sent me some questions on Instagram, and we'll sort of dip in and out of them. But the first one is, what are the main tenses that every intermediate should master? This comes from Mohammed Tariq on Instagram, and he's at B1 right now. Do you have anything you could say from your experience of learning from nothing here in France? What do you think are the tenses that you need most of all, that you should get most practice with? What do you use when you speak French most?
Present and passé composé.
Okay.
I just had a lesson with my professor reviewing imparfait, because describing something that is more like ritual or habitual is better described with imparfait. So I'm trying to practice that more, but I think, I use passé composé a lot to describe what I've been doing recently.
Yeah. Have you had any experience with so your passé composé is stronger than your imparfait?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's just practice, because I use it more often. I'm more comfortable with it. So I need to push myself to start to use what I'm learning in my lessons for imparfait in the real world conversations.
Yeah, true. And I think you and I both being here makes us more exposed to the language, and we can more often hear what is used more than something else. And I don't know about you, but you have just said it, passé composé is something you use more often, but because you maybe hear it more often.
Yeah, maybe.
You think?
Yeah, potentially, yeah.
Because I heard some people say that they found the imparfait easier to understand and start using, which is very fascinating to me, because I always found passé composé way easier, because all you need to know is j'ai, tu as, on a, which you already know for present tense, and then just add one word for the past for every subject.
Yeah, and it's like the same for each one. So it's it makes it much easier. And for imparfait, you have to change what is your verb with the nous, and then you add on the end, and that changes.
Yeah,
and it's complicated, but once you master that, then it feels like, okay, like I'm at that next level. And I think that you, well, as I say, both of us, but particularly you, because you're here from when you basically knew no French. You're really able to, over time, see what people are saying, what people are not using, and you can know, okay, I don't need to use that. I don't need to learn that. It's a waste of my time. And because it is just such a mountain to climb to get all of that French grammar in your head, you need to take it bit by bit. And use it until you can move on to the next thing. That's what I think. Yeah.
So I would say for the average intermediate learner, you should master, and I say that in quotes because mastery. What does that mean? Get it perfect every single time, or just feel comfortable? Let's say to feel comfortable in present. One of passé composé or imparfait, and then I would say the futur proche, which is the future tense where you use aller. So it's basically the equivalent of the English going to do something, and you replace do with any other verb. So going to swim, going to do shopping, going to run, going to eat, right? Je vais manger, je vais prendre le train, je vais faire les courses. That's far easier for me than learning the future simple, which is like the imparfait. You have all these new conjugations for every single thing. So, and it has the benefit of being used more often, I think. So present, I would say passé composé, my choice, but choose that or imparfait, because I know some of you find that easier. You weirdos. No, each to their own. And the future proche, I would say, and get really comfortable with using those, because then you can express present, past and future in 3 tenses. Get comfortable with those, and then when you're there, you're at a very capable level of expressing yourself in everyday conversations, and you can go and try and improve and learn the other tenses. That's how I would say if I was to do it again.
I would say Ashley in Switzerland has commented how much she prefers imparfait over passé composé. So she's one of those weirdos, but that's really great for you, and I'm curious as to how you use that and why it's easier for you.
Where's that comment? Oh, the imparfait is 10 times easier. Yeah. Tell us, Ashley, why is that? Because I would have just thought having to memorize even more conjugations is just crazy difficult. And also Ashley, you're assuming Ashley's a girl. I mean, maybe Ashley's a girl. I don't know. I was at school with Ashley, with Anne Ashley, who spelt their name with a Y.
Excuse-moi, pardon.
I'm just bringing it up because I'm like, because Ashley seems quite active in the comments. So if we're going to refer to him or her, or to them.
And they know that barbers are open in Switzerland, so potentially.
C'est simple comme bonjour. Okay, wow. Okay, you're quite bold with that. Well, you stick with what you feel comfortable with and you rock it and then come back to Passé Composé. That's awesome. What else have we got?
Hi, Jamie.
Hey, Jamie. Yeah, what's Jamie? Such sexy francophiles. Oh, well, thank you very much. You're not so bad yourself. Hope you have a beer in your hand as well.
We have John from London. We didn't say hi to John.
So, sorry, John. Yes, boy from X-Town. John has been in Montpellier. He did live here for a while, back in London now. Regular commenter on my videos. I really do appreciate it. I see some of you regulars here. It's really nice to have you guys with me from basically the beginning when I was, when I was just shooting videos into the dark, and don't know how you guys found me, but I'm really grateful that you did. I saw a question from Oliver again, said what would be the best way as a beginner to learn, as I have a tutor weekly? What else can I do? Well, I think it's already great that you have a tutor. I'm assuming that they are guiding your learning right now. I would say follow their advice and make sure that you are getting enough speaking as you go, because a lot of the time we wait till we have a certain amount, but we don't define what that amount is to start opening our mouth and feeling uncomfortable. And the reason I say you should speak is because it's going to feel weird whenever you start, and you learn so much more about yourself and what barriers you're going to have to overcome, like social barriers, emotional barriers when you start speaking. So keep speaking and ask so many questions to your tutor till he or she is a bit sick of you, but and enjoy it. Just soak it all up at the beginning. It's great. What about you? What would you give to a beginner?
Yeah, I mean, practice. One reason that I have progressed, along with my lessons with my tutor, my professor, is the fact that I get to practice every day living in France. So if I did not have that, if I was still in the US, I would have to diligently seek out someone to practice what I'm studying in my lessons. That way it gets, ingrained in your brain. Otherwise, you've got so many things in your life going on that, for me, especially if I learn something and I don't use it, it's out. So that's my number one thing. Yeah.
And I say that we often mistake learning for just the input part, but learning is the output as well. And so you're going to quickly have so much that you've tried to put in, and you're quickly on the back foot because you're trying to catch up and use it all. And so you do have to accept that's going to happen, and you've got to let stuff go and not get too annoyed by it. But the earlier you start using what you're putting in, even if you feel like you can't form full sentences, just do it, because A, you'll get used to the sounds coming out of your mouth. B, you'll get used to having to speak simply, and C, I don't know if there is a C. I'm just listing things here and hoping they come. And D, yeah, all of the above. Yeah. So yeah, keep it up, and don't worry if you get overwhelmed. Just keep enjoying it.
Vraiment, tu as raison pour Ashley.
Ashley, ouais, je suis mec. Cool, ça passe. All right, Ashley.
Salut, mec.
What is Andy saying now? Start with what you have. Doesn't matter if it's super basic. Yeah, Andy, you guys might have seen Andy on a video I did about a month ago. It was just before lockdown kicked in, because I was able to have him here with me on a video to get all his 4 key tips for becoming fluent in French. And because he's been here 12 years, and he spent a lot of time basically staying as far away from English as possible, and that has set him in such good stead. So if you want to listen to someone who is completely fluent, then I would listen to any advice Andy gives.
Check out that video. He's a master.
He is a master, and I can see him grinning and embarrassed right now at home with his cat. His cat's called Saucisse. That's quite cute, isn't it, guys? I know you won't mind me saying that. J'aime votre chien. Merci pour tous les vidéos. Merci, Manav. Tu es très gentil. Mais attention, c'est toutes les vidéos, parce que la vidéo est féminine. Mais merci beaucoup pour le compliment. Right. Should we just check? I'm checking up here that we haven't missed any questions. This is cool, guys. We're 16, 17 people. Jamie says, need to start my day drinking, good sirs.
Yes, you do, huh?
Monday, Saturday. Sunday, Saturday, whatever the day.
It's a holiday weekend here in France. We had Labor Day on Friday. Fête de travail.
I had no idea.
Oh, that's why I wasn't working.
Yeah. You're doing less hours right now. I just figured that's what it was.
No. So, yeah. I mean, I was still kind of working at the project, but yeah, I was off.
Cool. Yeah. Kyle is an IT manager, so he's often got responsibilities that go beyond the office hours. So you kind of just got to take it on the chin.
C'est la vie informatique.
Ouais, d'un informaticien aussi. Yes, effects of compounding interest results come later at a delayed stage. Oh, Andy, that's quite something I've got to let digest and figure out exactly what you mean. But yeah, I think you're saying that you don't often realize how far you've come till later, and you sit down and let it all process. Saucisse nous passe le bonjour. I doubt it. She's probably asleep, comfy like cats are in this time. Not even aware that we're in quarantine. Yes.
Good question.
What are good radio stations for listening comprehension? Kim, I would say this is, obviously depends on your level. You should always pick something that is a level above what you're completely comfortable with now, because you should always be trying to challenge yourself. The radio station RFI, they do a report every day for 10 minutes called Journal en français facile. You can Google that, RFI, Journal en français facile, and they do like a 10-minute report every day of the world news. So it's something you should be familiar with because you follow the news generally in English. So that will help you to pick out stuff and stay in the context and getting more than you would from a completely random source of news. But other than that, I would just say there isn't really a specific radio channel or TV show or YouTube channel. It's if you have the right approach to using it as a learning resource, you can make anything into a learning resource. You just got to know how to approach it. So, open your ears and say to yourself, okay, right now, I'm not just going to have this on in the background. I'm going to focus on this and listen out for specific things. Maybe you're trying to focus on getting the gist. Maybe you're trying to improve the small things and trying to understand more of the grammar that they use. So you try and chime in on specific parts of what they're saying. Have a target for what you're doing when you start each exercise, and do that enough. Not just once, but repeatedly, and you'll see results.
Whatever you are listening to, I think it's important if you have the ability to rewind and go back. So when you miss something and didn't understand it perfectly, you can go back 30 seconds or 1 minute and listen to it again. That repetition really helps it to settle in. There's a podcast that I sometimes listen to, especially in the beginning. I was listening to it, and it's news in slow French. So similar to what Alex recommended. It's just a podcast that, again, launches news every day. And I mean, it's really slowly spoken French, really helpful for beginners to understand the dialogue of news. Yeah.
And was that just audio? Yeah.
Yeah, just audio. Yeah.
I heard of that. And another thing is YouTube. I don't know when they activated it, but basically now on YouTube, you can change the speed of the video. I might be really slow to that, but you can change the speed of the video. And I found if you put something that's sort of native level or just a bit clearer than native everyday conversation level, if you put the speed at 0.75, it still sounds quite natural, so it's not uncomfortable, but you get far more. So if you're not ready to get everything from native level, or you do a run through at native level first, regular speed, and then you want to go and pick up bits that you missed, slow it down to 0.75. And I found that kind of really, really useful for picking out specific things on YouTube. If you put it down to 0.5, it sounds really painful.
Oh, yeah, I imagine. Well, Kim, you've got quite a few answers as well from the comments. Andy also recommended Français Facile, and Jamie is recommending Nova for their interviews. Light and topics are very varied, so you pick up different vocab and come across different accents. So cool. Thanks for the
Yeah, that's
comments
fantastic. And I like there's a discussion going on between John and Oliver. John Oliver. Oliver and John about the Malvalette, and he knew the name of his grandma. That's awesome. That's fantastic. Do you know because you're from Detroit, and so is that, I may have asked you before, but that is a French, I mean, Detroit, but that was originally settled by French. Yeah, was it? Yeah,
yeah. When the French came over to help during the New World and so on, Detroit was one of the cities founded by the French. Yeah.
That's awesome. So is there any like patois or like weird like French language still spoken there by like some small communities like there is in like Louisiana?
Yeah, not quite. Not that I know of. But now when I go back, I notice some names that I'm like, oh, that's a French name, and oh, that's a French name that I had no idea before I came here. Yeah, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that is really cool. It's impressive that it traveled so far, but the French were very much colonialists as well, like the British. Right, so what should we do now? So we've had one question from Instagram. I know there's questions coming in here. GD Tetra, that's a cool username. Nice to meet you. Thank you for being here. When learning French, I can't help but translate the word from French to English to know the meaning. Do you do this as well, or do you begin to associate the word directly to the meaning after a while? So it's a bit of both. I mean, there's a lot of expert language learners out there who would recommend that you don't learn from English from the beginning, so you don't develop that bad habit. And I say bad habit like that because in the long run, if you are translating, and I know this now from my extensive time with French, and it's been quite painful, and I know that it could have been faster if in the beginning I had learned not to rely on English, because I think I would have improved sooner. But because I developed that habit and it became a crutch, everything was translating, and I wanted to find a connection with English behind everything in French. So I think if you've already started and you're a way in, it's okay. Like there's so much connection between English and French that it does help you a lot. And some of the reasons why my grammar videos are so useful for you guys is because I'm able to find a connection between French and English to help you feel good about the rule that I'm teaching. But it shouldn't be used as a crutch because they are two separate languages. But in terms of translating in your head, that will happen a lot. And then the more you speak, the more you get used to certain conversations and certain sentences, because in a language, there's probably like a few hundred sentences that can cover 80%, let's say, of what you want to say in most conversations. So you never translate those in after a while because they're just so normal, like even for you, like who's been here less time than me. It's just a pattern. But then, of course, whenever you have anything new, you've got to try and structure it the only way you know how, which is English to French bit by bit, right? But the point is to get your point across. So don't worry too much about it if you're doing it. But if you're close enough to the beginning, or you're willing to take a step back to make 4 or 5 paces forward, I would really try and get out of that habit of translating to English. And the way you do that is more consumption of French, make more of your life French, so that you pick up on what is meant in the audio or in the reading, and you realize what that is, but you're not translating from English to French, if that makes sense.
I think when I'm learning, I have to have a translation into English for my comprehension, to allow something to stick in my head. Because if I hear a word and I don't understand it, it's really not going to stay. So I have the original translation so I can understand what that actually means in my native tongue. But the trick is to not use it as you would use it in English. Use it as it's supposed to be used in French. Otherwise, you're going to have the wrong conjugation. You're going to use it incorrectly, and you're going to sound like an English speaker trying to speak French when you don't want that. You want to speak like a French person. And that's why I think some of these experts, as Alex mentioned, say not to do a direct translation, French to English and so forth. But I think it's necessary in the beginning to understand what you're actually going to be speaking, but then to do so with the French way.
Yeah, for sure. That's some golden advice right there. And Kyle has learned that from being on the ground in France, which is it's a perspective I'm very happy to be able to share with you guys here, because it's great to have it's great to keep in mind that people learn, or everyone learns differently, and everyone's got a different story, and so they can all bring really valuable advice and experience to the table. So yeah, that's a really great benefit of having you here. And yeah, it also should serve as a reminder to you guys not to, some of you guys who are frustrated or not getting where you want to be with French, just try not to compare yourself with others, because you don't know necessarily what their limitations are, what their natural abilities are, and you should focus more on what you're capable of and how far you've come, and just enjoy the process.
Ashley asked an interesting question about whether we think in French, and she's also jumping on the translation. I knew that, and he was asking about the translation as well. But I think, I'm pretty sure you think in French, and do you dream in French as well?
I don't remember my dreams. I'm always jealous of people who say they do. If I speak in them, I don't remember. I honestly think I probably still dream mostly in English. I was always jealous of people who said after like 6 months they like had this click and then they were dreaming in French. I was waiting for it, and it didn't happen for me. You?
Yeah, occasionally I have dreams where I'm speaking French. I don't know whether I'm speaking better than I do in real life or not. I just like wake up and I'm like still in like a French mindset. It's like kind of weird. But yeah, I often will think certain things in French. I don't know what the correlation is, if there's a certain subject or something triggers my thoughts to just to be in the French language. But yeah, it happens, and I kind of love it actually to have that switch. It tells me that my mind is naturally thinking and working in French as well as English, but I'm hoping that continues to advance and become more and more. But I notice that now my English and my French just mix, and I can't even speak proper English now. But I'm okay with it.
C'est du franglais.
Right.
In fact, it always reminds me that we and I often feel weird as well when French creeps into my English or English creeps into French, and I still feel like a pang of like shock in my mind in some way, like oh, that's wrong. There's this idea of oh, I should have better English, but languages are alive, and of course, if you're spending your time around people speaking both languages, they're going to mold into one, and that's how new languages and dialects come about, is people coming from all over and forming their new way of communicating. It's all about being most efficient, and so you get a little glimpse of that even now today when we're speaking French and English and flip-flopping, and I'll have like the common thing for me is I'll just end up saying like aussi instead of also when I speak in English, or I'll say also in French. Like it's really weird and you don't see it coming.
Je suis désolé, Ashley, vraiment. C'est juste mon habitude, hein. Ashley, c'est vraiment un prénom pour la fille en États-Unis.
Ouais.
Pardon.
You'll get it. You've been reminded a couple of times now, so it'll come. I know that I grew up and there was a couple of girls called Ashley, but and they spelled it differently, like EIGH, and that helped me. But I was like, I know that you can spell it both ways, both genders. Andy has bowed out. Okay, have a good day, Andy. Thank you very much, GD Tetra. What is your name, by the way? Because I like referring to people by their first name, if you're okay with giving that. Thank you very much for the compliment. Days of French and Swedish. Dude, sorry, I don't know your first name. I follow you on YouTube. I think your stuff is great. And I'm glad to be sharing this small YouTuber journey with you a little bit. Australian guy, passionate about French and Swedish, and a really interesting mix. And yeah, thanks for joining us. Really cool. I'm flattered. Chris says, can you recommend any sources online for French TV shows or movies? I'm going to give you the easy answer of Netflix, because that is honestly the first place I go for movies now. and or I end up going to the cinema here. But I have that luxury of being in the country. Sources online for French TV shows or movies. You don't really watch a lot of French TV shows or movies, do you? And if we do, it's on Netflix.
Yeah, it's usually Netflix, and yeah,
we don't have a TV. We have an Apple TV and a projector, so we just completely in that on-demand generation. Don't really have any good sources of that. But if anyone in the chat wants to help him out, then please do so. Lamont, cool name. Not heard that before. Yeah, of course I know who you are. I see all the comments that come in. I've seen you interact with some of my audience in the comments on that. I think on that Duolingo video I did recently. That's my most popular video, and I'm really grateful for you giving your 2 cents to people out there who don't have as much experience with languages, trying to steer them away for sticking with just Duolingo. Let's try and actually. We've got a lot of things coming in the chat, which is great. But just to answer the few questions that I had on Instagram beforehand. Second one was from the username is Levin Trevin, and its first name wasn't clear on the on Instagram. So I apologize if I don't have your first name. But he asks, have you ever gotten discouraged when learning, and how did you break out of it? Oh man, well, this isn't something that just happens once and goes away. And this is why, I focus so much with my coaching students, with my French coaching students. I focus so much from the beginning on mindset and how important it is to have the right mindset. For many reasons, to accept that this is a marathon and not a sprint. It's something you're gonna want to have in your life for many years to come if you're serious about it. So you do have to take all the discouraging parts on the chin and just use them to fuel you to go forward again. And I know that I've had so many times when I've had a conversation, I felt like I could barely say anything without sounding like a complete idiot or sounding really basic. And you just have to say over time that, especially if you're someone who has a tendency to be very hard on themselves. I know that's not everyone, but it's definitely me. I set high standards for myself. And so it took a lot of time, and it still affects me today. It's just part of who I am, to accept those more readily and just move on and get back on the horse and get back into the next conversation. Because if you let that get to you, you will, like with anything, if you don't want to get back in the game sooner, like the metaphor is, the analogy is using, if you fall off your bike as a kid, you should get back on the bike sooner. Otherwise it's going to fester, and you're going to hate the idea of getting on a bike more often. Right? So yes, it's happened so many times, and the best way is just to get back into the next conversation and regroup and get back on it. That is easier for me because I'm here in France, so I have no choice. I'm surrounded by language like you, but you have the internet, so get into those conversations. Speak to your friends who are French if you have any, and yeah, just keep going, man. Know that that's just one conversation. Analyze rationally what you did wrong and why it was so bad, and try and be better for next time. And don't be too hard on yourself. What would you say?
Definitely, all the time, and it keeps coming back. I think in our last video that we did, I mentioned that it's like a roller coaster. You have your ups and downs, but for me, it also depends on the other things going on in my life, especially here in France. So if I'm stressed about another situation, and then on top of that, I'm trying to learn French and I'm starting to struggle with something. If my mood is already, kind of down in the dumps, it's like it's over, and I'm fed up. And that happened to me just a couple of weeks ago. And I was really stressed with work, and I had a French lesson, and I was just struggling with passé composé, which I just mentioned. I feel very comfortable with it, but talking with my professor, it was clear that I was just missing so many things. And then, a couple of weeks went by. I had a couple lessons in between, and the lesson I had just this past week was so much better, so much more positive. I felt like I was really, at that top of the roller coaster ride again. So you just have to stick with it, everyone has their moments down in the dumps.
Yeah, I mean, that's just part of being human, right? Sometimes it's because you haven't prepared. Sometimes it's because it's something that you haven't talked about before and you're trying to apply something new at the same time. There's a lot of things to try. Sometimes it's because you didn't get enough sleep. This isn't talked about enough, but performance for anything is greater when you're better rested. You feel physically better, you feel mentally better. The hormones are more in balance in your body, in your brain. And so get enough sleep, and this isn't talked about enough. And that will give you more of a chance of being fairer on yourself. Whereas if you're constantly tired, you feel like it's a chore to learn French, you're going to be really setting yourself up for one of those dips on the roller coaster. So I think the better you're prepared, and that means both mentally and in terms of be prepared with a plan for conversations that you want to use for your improvement. If you're able to walk into a planned speaking situation, like a language exchange or a thing with your tutor, these things are going to set you up for success and avoid those negative feelings afterwards.
A few comments there.
A few comments based on what I just said, or based on what you said.
Lamont. Well, okay. So Ashley is apparently a masculine name in Britain. Is that true?
Well, I mean, like I said, I was at school with Ashley's boys and girls, and there were girls with EY and there were girls with EIGH.
Oh,
so
okay. There's that difference.
I mean, again, rules are meant to be broken, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And if parents don't know the rules, they're just going to name, they're going to go against it.
It's great. It's great.
Little did Ashley know, all these years later, people would be confusing him for a girl.
No, that's okay. Everyone calls me Kylie sometimes, and that's definitely a girl's name. So.
They don't know the name Kyle in France. It's if they see it written down, at best you're going to get is Kiel. Or maybe at best, if you see someone who has some sort of knowledge from English, they're going to guess. But by default, is Kiel, right? That's just how they pronounce those sounds.
Yeah.
Hey, JC is here. Jean-Christophe. You got internet down deep in that dark hole you said you were going to be. Well, thank you for making the effort, man. Really appreciate it. One of my students.
I think John asked if we mix with the French, or do we keep with the English speakers?
Oh, we keep away from the French. So where's the question, boys? How do you mix with the French? Do you keep with the English speaking? So I said to myself when I came here, I was like, I'm coming here for the language, so I want to mix with French as much as possible. But then the reality kicks in of how tiring that is when you do that nonstop. And I really respect people who manage to do that. But for English speakers, I feel like, and it's not an excuse. It can easily be used as an excuse, but for English speakers, it's harder to stick with just French because you know somewhere deep, somewhere in your brain that you can get away with English, right? So you seek that comfort. Whereas someone from Portugal, for example, doesn't have that comfort. They know they've got to push through with French. So they end up having more French friends. Me, I have a healthy mix, I would say. Probably I have more close friends that are English speakers, not from the UK, but just who speak English, like Germans, French, English speakers, and then a few with whom I only speak French. But I'm someone who's very happy with a small group of close friends. So I don't actively go and always meet new people. It's quite draining for me. But so I probably have more English speaking friends, anglophone friends than French. And so I knew that for me to get to a level that I would be happy with in French, I had to go and seek those practice opportunities more. So I would go to more language exchanges than the average person here in France. I would have more online tutor sessions despite being in France because I wanted that one-on-one focused time for my French. I didn't get it so much naturally from conversation, but it happens more now that I'm more comfortable with the level. It's different for Kyle, as I'm sure you'll tell us, because he works here in a French company and he's way more outgoing and social than me. So his experience of the language is very different to mine. Why don't you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah. So I work at more of like an international company. I mean, we're based in France completely, but we have a mix of 20, 25 different nationalities. So the first language of the company is English, but the second, of course, is French. So I would say that I'm socially quite mixed. I, of course, have a lot of friends that I primarily speak English with, but because of coworkers who are French and friends I've met through them or others that are French, I prioritize to speak French with them. It's a goal of mine because I like Alex didn't want to just be absorbed in the Anglophone expat community, and wanted to truly experience French life, French culture, the language. So at work, as I've progressed in French, I will start off a conversation with a French person in French, and sometimes they'll be a bit surprised. They're like, "Wait, you're speaking to me in French? Like, wait, what's happening?" And I'm like, "Yeah, allez, vas-y, hein, comme ça." and so I just make an effort, an extra effort for that. But that's the same socially as well. If I don't do it, then I'll just be speaking English all the time, like I'm living in America. What's the point?
Yeah, and one of the things that's great about Kyle is, I've seen him go from like basically nothing in French to now he's just, and this isn't something that's new. He's done like from pretty early on. He was always very up for and ready to speak French, even when it was extremely limited. And he'll speak to colleagues in French, even if they probably think that he can't communicate well enough with them. He would persist, and that means that changes how they see him in terms of what language to use. So now they'll willingly use French with him, which is so key for those of you out there who end up speaking English a lot to your French friends or French neighbors if you live in France, and you're wondering how do you get more of that in French and stop it going to English. You just got to persist and show them that you want to speak French with them, and they will eventually or quite quickly cave and speak to you in French. And even if they speak to you in English, keep going in French. It helps you. Yeah, I'm sure exactly. People would still reply to you in English even though you spoke French.
I mean, the French like to practice their English. So oftentimes there's two languages being spoken. They're speaking to me in English, I'm speaking to them in French. And it's really amusing, but it's actually beneficial to both parties. And so I mean, try that.
Ashley says, I found it impossible working in Geneva in 2018 to get my colleagues I like how you're using so much franglais, to get my collègue with the accent to speak French. I used to get random people track me down to speak English because I was the London guy. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of nice, right? You are this exotic quantity, even in an international place like Switzerland. But you are the only one who's going to get your practice in. So you do have to find this level of selfishness to get that in, because those times where you think, oh, right now I'll just speak English because it's easier. Those accumulate very quickly, and before you know it, you've done a week without speaking French. So you just have to throw yourself in and use French, even as little ways possible. Like Kyle I would just hear him on the phone to a colleague or something, and he'd just be saying stuff like, oui, voilà, bah vas-y, c'est parti. And I'd be like, the rest of his sentence wasn't very grammatically great. He probably won't mind me saying this was a while ago, before it was at its level now. But he would just be mimicking the real sounds of the French people. It just sounded so natural. So yeah, be willing just to use it, because if you don't, no one's going to do it for you.
We've got my French professor on the line. Aisha.
We have Aisha here.
Merci.
You're both our friends. Kyle's teacher, and she works with me as well with my students. She really, and also she's my go-to person to geek out with about French. And we've got a video coming up soon that I was quite uncomfortable doing because we were talking in French on a deep topic. So I'll have that for you guys for you guys soon when I get around to editing it. Lamont says, getting foreigners who speak English to not speak English is a matter of having a stronger will. Because I learned to get over this against Swedes. Oh my God, it's probably harder with Swedes because they just speak such perfect English. I'm pretty much a brick wall now. Yeah, you just have to develop that wall and be like, I'm here, I'm doing French for me. Go, like, just you can do what you want, but I'm controlling what I can control. And that's a key thing you have to learn. What are you laughing at?
I'm laughing at John. He said, get yourself a mother-in-law who doesn't speak English, works wonders. And I'm thinking about you and you and Selena now.
A bit early for that.
Now she really is going to kill me.
Elle va te tuer. Yeah, sure. If you have those opportunities, like you have the mother-in-law who doesn't speak English, that's great. That will push you like you can't believe, because you have no choice, right? But for those of you who don't have that, and for me, I didn't have that for the longest time, it has to come from you. You have to find this way to love it and to push yourself and just be used to being uncomfortable. So of course, if you have that mother-in-law or that family member that gives you that ability, that extra reason to speak French, but no, you should get used to doing it without that.
That's why it's great to have, for me, to have French friends who don't have a high English level. So like my barber and like my other friend Julian, they can get by, but they're much more comfortable in French. So it pushes me and it pushes my level forward as well. So that's great.
Yeah. And everyone, like I've met a lot of your friends, and they're all just so lovely, and no one like wants to speak one language more than the other. And if they're not comfortable speaking English, for example, like Julien, one of our friends, Julien, like he won't really speak English a little bit, but he'll understand
until he's had about 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, then he'll try. Yeah, for me, drinking never helped me; it made me slower. Should we have another question? This is one that I struggled to answer, but I think we should answer it anyway. Because Messine, I don't know if Messine is here, but she asked me a question over on Instagram. She's our Kiwi friend here in Montpellier. And she said, do you understand the French humor?
What French humor?
What French humor? So the first, I asked Kyle about this before the live. And you guys should tell us in the comments if you know anything about French humor, like what are the things which stand out for you. But I think it's a combination of me not being so interested in it in general. Like I experience it if it comes up, and the French like talking about humor in terms of degrees. They'll say premier degré ou second degré, and they'll say like a joke is either premier degré, second degré, or troisième degré, for example. And it's really hard to get what that means. So I looked it up before coming on air. And so premier degré is when something is very obviously meant to be funny. So simple as that. Second degré, and don't ask me why they don't say deuxième degré, but there you go. It's the French craziness. I posted about second and deuxième the other day. Anyway, second degré is when it's more subtle. So a bit more intellectual humor. A lot of us would appreciate, we see something, we understand why it's a joke. There's something more behind it, right? But it's not just like slapstick or in your face. Yeah. So the French like to describe humor like that. And then there is troisième degré, which is like much more intellectual. And I think a lot of cases I wouldn't even understand.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah, I guess I would more understand the premier.
Yeah. So they like to qualify it like that. And they also have l'humour noir, like we have in English, black humor, dark humor, something that is which makes jokes out of maybe more sensitive topics in society. And yeah, those are the three main sort of categories of humor that I relate to with French. Yeah, Solène says et l'humour noir, voilà. On aime tous les deux l'humour noir, hein, Solène. French are not funny, she says, and she is French. So, well, that's a statement we should screenshot and put all over the internet, shouldn't we? Yeah. On va en faire une capture d'écran, Solène, et va la partager sur Twitter, si tu veux.
I think something about understanding another culture's humor is that you have to understand the culture very deeply. I mean, cultural references are like the backbone of most jokes, right? I mean, so if you don't understand history or famous figures or moments, you're not going to understand the jokes. But when there's something right in your face, if you can understand the language to a certain level, then you can understand a situation is funny. When I first arrived, they would all be laughing at the bar, and I'd be like, But now I actually get that, somebody said something or slipped up, or they were telling a story that they fell yesterday, or whatever it is. But if you can understand the language a little bit better, then you can understand a funny situation rather than a joke about culture or history or something like this.
Yeah, for sure. The more you know around the topic, the more you can, and this helps with any general listening stuff, the more you know for the context, the more you can figure out what is being talked about and then what's being laughed about. But humor really is that sort of next level a lot of the time because it's based on subtleties. But that's a really good point you make. And it made me remember being uncomfortable and not being able to join into jokes. Mm-hmm. And that is something which tends to push us away from hanging out with French people. Or at least for me, I would maybe more, what's the word, to not recoil, but to come back to the safety, to retreat back into my English speaking bubble where I understood everything. And that's probably not the right thing to do. But again, these are things that you learn as a language learner, and living in France as well. You get used to this discomfort. It's just part of the journey. And yeah, you're going to not understand stuff like that, and that's okay. Hopefully you've got nice people around you who bring you in and say, maybe they'll explain it to you, or make it, or make you feel included even when you feel like you're an outsider.
Days of French in Swedish.
That's
a very good point there.
Yeah.
Though
maybe hilarious. I mean, nothing anyone with you. Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. Right. What else do we have? How long have we been going? We just hit an hour, guys. This is fantastic. I'm kind of on a roll. The first beer has kicked in. I feel quite relaxed. How do you feel?
Good. Yeah. Il fait chaud.
Il fait chaud. Ouais, il fait assez chaud. On peut ouvrir un peu. Est-ce que tu veux parler un peu en français?
Ouais, vas-y, hein,
ouais.
Un peu.
Je peux te poser une question?
Ouais, ok.
J'ai une question pour toi en français. Est-ce que tu as des mots préférés en français?
Oui, ouais. Mais c'est le mot centre.
Oui.
et vulgaire.
Vulgaire, ok. Ouais, comme quoi, par exemple?
Putain. C'est mon mot préféré. En fait, j'ai changé. J'utilise pas le mot en anglais pour ça. Si tu connais que je veux dire.
Ouais. Tu n'utilises pas le mot comme ça, comme quoi?
Je ne suis pas sûr si je peux dire sur live.
Bah, tu viens de le dire, donc oui. Bah, tu peux le dire.
Ok, voilà. Je dis pas fuck. Maintenant, je dis putain.
Oui.
Plus que fuck.
Oui,
tu vois?
Oui.
Fuck.
Il jure en français maintenant. Donc, si il est en colère, si il est énervé, il dirait putain au lieu de fuck en anglais. Mais quand même, tu continues à jurer en anglais aussi.
Oui, ça c'est sûr.
Ouais. Ça dépend du contexte aussi. Si tu parles au français, c'est plus probable que tu vas jurer en français. Mais ouais, putain, et c'est très satisfaisant de le dire, hein, parce que tu peux le dire comme putain ou oh putain. Ça dépend. Hein.
Ouais, non, je suis d'accord.
Ouais. D'autres mots?
Bah, non, je ne sais pas, parce que si tu me poses la même question en anglais, je n'ai pas un mot préféré en anglais. C'est...
Ouais. Bah aussi, c'est ma faute parce que je ne t'ai pas préparé d'avance cette question. Mais moi, j'en ai deux.
D'accord.
mais je suis content que tu en aies au moins un mot. Hein. C'est bon. Pour moi, j'ai entendu le mot superflu aujourd'hui et j'adore ce mot, pas pour son sens, pas pour ce que ça veut dire, mais pour le sens et pour le mot lui-même. En fait, c'est superflu. En anglais, ça se traduit par, superfluous ou unnecessary, pas nécessaire, superfluous. Mais en français, c'est superflu. Et pour moi, je dis toujours que je n'arrive pas à croire que ce n'est pas une abréviation. Ça, c'est le mot entier.
Ouais.
The whole word, l'entier. C'est superflu. Et je regardais une vidéo ce matin.
Et tu peux écrire dans le chat. Donc
Oui, pardon. Bonne idée.
Lire.
Superflu.
Voilà.
Superflu. Et c'est vraiment ça, superflu. Et je regardais une vidéo ce matin où il posait la question, est-ce que l'argent est nécessaire ou superflu à ton avis ou à votre avis? Et j'adore ce mot parce que je fais la connexion avec l'anglais.
Oui. Moi, j'ai pensé par exemple, Covid.
Voilà, Covid, c'est
superflu.
une superflu. Ouais. Mais non, en fait, ça veut dire pas nécessaire. Et oui, coronavirus, voilà, superflu. Et c'est trop marrant. Et les Français ne font pas ces connexions parce que pour eux, c'est juste un mot, c'est juste un autre mot. Mais j'adore ça. Paul Taylor is an English comedian who speaks perfect French and talks about topics that English speakers might relate to. Yes, John, Paul Taylor is fantastic, and I'm gutted that I can't go see his show in June because he's had to reschedule his whole tour. But he was coming to Montpellier for the first time to do a show, and I have tickets for that. It's fantastic. But I should say, and this isn't your fault, but I would say that even he doesn't speak perfect French, and he says that in a number of his videos. And so it's important to note that even someone of his level who's been studying as many years as him, he doesn't speak perfect French. There's things that he doesn't get. And so just to get a bit serious again, because it's all about that mindset. He is awesome. He speaks amazing French, but certainly he still makes mistakes.
Aisha, no, it was Solène. She said à poil. Et j'adore ça.
Oui, je pense que Solène a dit à poil comme mot préféré, mais en fait, c'est deux mots. Mais à poil, c'est. Est-ce que vous savez, les gens, ce que ça va dire à poil? À poil. Je vais le réécrire. Est-ce que vous connaissez ce mot? C'est marrant pour moi parce que quand je suis arrivé en France, je parlais comme un Anglais qui apprenait le français et du coup, je traduisais tout de l'anglais. Et donc, moi, je disais nu. Je suis nu si je suis naked. Voilà. Mais en fait, c'est plus français de dire à poil. Et à poil, un poil, c'est un poil là. Ça, c'est un poil. Mais si tu es à poil, tu ne portes aucun vêtement. Ouais. I can't do that. Je peux pas siffler. Ouais. Non, c'était parce que vous aviez trop chaud.
Ah oui. Mais ce n'est pas une vidéo comme ça.
Non, il faut. Ça serait.
Comme toi.
Ça serait une vidéo payante. Hein. Il faut payer pour voir ça. Oui, Days lamente aussi. Il dit, moi, j'ai pensé que ça voulait dire un virus plus fort. Est-ce que tu pensais ça avant que je vous ai dit la vraie définition, ou est-ce que tu le pensais bien avant? Mon mot préféré, c'est grenouille.
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 Grenouille, c'est quoi?
Frog.
Ah.
Ouais.
Vous êtes français?
Clara, est-ce que c'est ton mot préféré parce que c'est très dur à prononcer ou pour une autre raison? Parce que
tu adores les grenouilles.
Ouais, parce que pour les anglophones, c'est un mot horrible. Parce que avec le R, avec le oui à la fin, c'est très, très difficile à bien prononcer. Mais oui, c'est grenouille. Grenouille.
Grenouille.
Ouais, c'est horrible. Et nouille means noodle. So, grenouille. Ouais.
Okay.
Non, je n'ai pas entendu le mot. Ah ouais, superflu. Il le dit. En fait, je n'avais pas entendu ce mot avant d'arriver en France. Donc, et je ne suis même pas sûr de la définition en anglais, superfluous. Si on me dit le mot superfluous en anglais, je ne suis pas sûr de ce que ça veut dire. Mais ce matin, je l'ai regardé sur Internet et j'ai trouvé pas nécessaire. Deep fried haggis. That is a fantastic username. I assume you're Scottish, but awesome. Your videos are very good. I've recently started learning French and you are really helping the pronunciation and get over my accent. That's amazing because most of my videos are in English. So I'm really curious to know how I'm helping you with your pronunciation, but I'm really happy to know that. Also, my grammar videos, at least, are intended for intermediate learners. But I do have a lot of beginners coming on and saying they enjoy my stuff. So I would say
you really pronounce words when you're even talking about one word that you enjoy or something that you've seen on the street.
Yeah,
you describe it and you help, show people how to pronounce it with your mouth even. And I think that's helpful.
Yeah, and if I give examples, I repeat it 2-3 times on my videos. But again, my English accent, I have a pretty good French accent, but some of the things like R's are very difficult. I'm just looking up in the chat here, but damn, deep fried haggis. I mean, that is an awesome username. Well done on that. Anthony said a while ago, likewise, I've heard and he said earlier, have you ever read or heard of the book, The Bonjour Effect? It mentions that even though you may speak perfect French, there is still a language within the language. Well, that's quite deep, man. Had a couple of beers. I'm not sure I'm able to think that deeply. Likewise, I've heard good things about it from other English speakers, but I've found the idea is controversial to talk about with the French. I'm going to look out for this book. I'm going to write this down right now. The Bonjour Effect. I have a feeling Lamont, who reads a lot and is a philosophical thinker. He might disagree with me, but that's the impression I get. He might have read that. So, the Bonjour Effect. Right, we'll read that. What's going on here? Malheureusement, je ressemble à Joe Star. C'est qui Joe Star? Yes, John. À poil does mean naked. Yeah.
I just one of my good French friends, will be drinking in the discotheque and at the club, and at a certain point he'll just be dancing and say "à poil." It's my favorite moment. I know we've reached the peak of the night at that moment,
Does he actually start the action?
Well, sometimes that's the next level of the night, He's a great chap.
À poil, you should hold him to that promise, though you might get kicked out.
Yeah, exactly.
Clara says, Hervé m'a dit que c'est un mot très dur à prononcer. This is grenouille.
Yeah.
Je l'ai essayé et il était étonné que j'étais capable de le prononcer. Hervé est mon chorès. Tu veux dire correspondant, peut-être? Est-ce que tu écris à quelqu'un qui s'appelle Hervé?
Pen pal?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I'm really reaching there. I'm not sure. Chorès, quite cool, shortening it. Hervé, it was a cool name, Hervé. Oui, j'ai essayé. Attention, c'est je l'ai essayé et pas j'ai l'essayé. Et il était étonné que j'étais capable de le prononcer. Bravo. Il faut fêter, Clara, toutes les victoires, peu importe la taille. Je ne sais pas si je peux dire la taille, mais la taille de la victoire. Apprécie toutes les victoires.
Correspondant, oui.
Pardon, Joey Star. Non, je ne connaissais pas Joey Star, non?
Non,
Toi non plus.
ça a l'air comme porn star. C'est juste moi.
Je ne saurais pas. Oui, je voulais dire correspondant. Bah, c'est cool, le correspondant. OK. Est-ce que tu lui as déjà parlé de vive voix? Qu'est-ce qu'il dit? Quoi? Joey Star. J'imagine que c'est un star de la télé française ou quelque chose comme ça. Mais on n'a pas de télé. Donc...
Pour la musique française, j'écoute de temps en temps, mais j'utilise Apple Music. Donc, ça dépend si j'écoute dans ma vie. Et si j'aime, j'ai ajouté, mais ça dépend.
Utilisez Google. Wow. Okay. Ashley is very insistent that we know who this person is. So, okay, just bear with me. Accountable. Joey Star, c'est un rappeur français. Ok.
Il y a 2 A.
Son vrai nom, c'est Didier Morville. Better known by his stage name Joey Star, with additional aliases such as Jaguar Gorgone.
Pornstar.
And double A. Ok, cool.
D'accord.
Oh.
Oh.
Non, je connaissais pas bien les. Jérôme, tais-toi. Sois gentil, sois sympa.
Casse-toi.
Casse-toi.
Bonjour, Jérôme.
Oui, bonjour les PD. Non, c'est pas sympa ça. On est tous les apprenants ici. Il est si célèbre en France, mais Ashley, ça dépend de ta bulle. On vit tous dans une bulle différente. Hein, et moi, je ne suis pas trop le rap français, donc je n'ai pas entendu parler de lui.
C'est difficile à comprendre.
C'est difficile à comprendre. Cela dit, je connais Maître Gims, ou il s'appelle maintenant Gims.
Ou MZ.
J'aime bien ses paroles, c'est très bien pour apprendre. J'aime bien ton t-shirt. Le Nike, tu connais pas le Nike? Merci. Jérôme et c'est très intéressant parce que Jérôme est philippin, mais aussi français. Donc, il parle l'anglais, le français, le tagalog et un peu d'espagnol. Mais c'est très, très cool. You answered your own question. Which one? Where are you from? Scotland? Yeah, probably.
No, I think it was about rappers.
Rappers?
Yeah, because
sure.
you said a couple of rappers.
Oh, but Deep Fried Haggis. I haven't heard from him for a while. Him or her, sorry. Español, sí. Yes, I know you speak fantastic Español. Habla muy bien el español, hein? That's about all I can say in Spanish. Je lui ai écrit depuis 2 ans et demi. Nous avons fait un échange scolaire l'année dernière. Cool. Bah, c'est trop chouette. What else can we say? I don't know. Maybe we'll see warm down in a little bit. Maybe we've got 2 more questions. Maybe you don't want to answer this one. Is that complicated?
It would just be shit.
Okay. I mean, I've given you a clue here about what I'm going to say, but so one thing that is quite useful to tell you guys, because French learners, all of us, we worry about making mistakes, and some mistakes are worse than others. Some mistakes you should not worry about till later, or not worry about at all. They're just in your head. And some of them, they need to be fixed, right? So, I've learned from speaking to plenty of natives that it's important to make sure you get conjugations more or less correct as much as you can, because apparently it sounds quite uncomfortable to them if you're speaking and you say the infinitive, for example, straight after the subject. So instead of like je marche, you say je marchais. Apparently, it's quite common for a lot of English speakers who are learning French, and So they apparently they feel uncomfortable about that. So if I was to say there's one thing that you should give a lot of attention to, still speak, but give a lot of attention to, is getting those conjugations correct more of the time. So yeah, basically the question I was answering was, what do you think is most uncomfortable for French people when foreigners speak French? Do you have anything that maybe when you've spoken French, you see someone sort of not really at ease, or nothing come to mind?
I mean, I guess by uncomfortable or not at ease, it's more of that they don't understand you, and that might make them feel awkward, I guess. I'm not really sure, but I mean, I don't like to say the accent is very important or so important that you shouldn't try if you have a bad French accent, but it is necessary to try to replicate the French accent, because it will be much easier for them to understand you, and therefore they would be less uncomfortable, if that's the use of the word that you're doing.
Yeah. And I think it's important to mention here, and I got reminded of this from an English teacher the other day, that having a good accent doesn't mean that you sound, completely French, right? But because you should also be proud of how your sort of mix of your English accent, or your English speaking accent and your French accent sound, that's kind of going to identify you, right? And often it can be something that is curious for a lot of people. But I'm still struggling sometimes with the distinction between pronunciation and accent. So it's important to have good pronunciation, but don't worry too much about like having the perfect accent, because I don't think there is a perfect accent, because there's so many different regional accents, so we can't really hope to necessarily sound like someone from the deep south of
France, you're right. What I meant is
pronunciation, and it's really common, because even me, like last week, I would still get them very confused. So pronunciation is very key, and if you sound more natural, that's more pleasing to their ears, for sure. And also, the main rule is to se faire comprendre. You might have heard me say this in a lot of my recent videos. I will drill it in until it's ingrained in your brain. Se faire comprendre is the first aim for any conversation. So that includes fixing any pronunciation, which means that you aren't being well understood. So se faire comprendre. And after that, don't worry too much. If some of your sounds sound a bit weird, you'll perfect them. But a lot of the time, you can. If someone isn't correcting you, or someone isn't looking uncomfortable, that probably means you're doing just fine. So you should focus less on the inner voice and focus more on the reactions of the French people you talk to. Une question: comprenez-vous tous les dialectes français? No. I mean, it's not possible if you don't live in that place. I mean, it's all about exposure, and if you deliberately go and try and understand a particular dialect, you're going to do better. But il
y a beaucoup de dialectes.
Beaucoup de dialectes, right? But again, there's this distinction between a dialect, and I had to look this up a while ago. A dialect is a language that is not necessarily written. So it might use the French language like written, but when they speak it sounds almost incomprehensible. So you have like people from the countryside here in the south, they have a very strong accent. But I don't know if it's classed as a dialect.
If you go into the countryside, or if you go west, I'm not sure the region, but they have several different dialects.
Yeah, for sure.
Like Nicola's parents in like Bordeaux, like they used to speak a different dialect, and then in French history, they I think it was during the war, they required all schools to teach one French language and like banned the dialects, because it was causing like separation during the war.
Okay. But was it Basque they were speaking? Because that's a different language completely, and that's on the Basque coast. People from Bordeaux often, well, less and less, but people speak Basque, and like if you hear it, it doesn't sound like anything Latin, like it's incomprehensible. No. So I wonder if that's sort of fused with some French maybe and made dialect.
Yeah.
Because you have like the north of Spain is the Basque area of Spain, and then that goes up into that west coast of France. So you have the Basque from France, the Basque from
that's probably exactly what it was.
Yeah. It's a lot of that because it's Nico, right? Yeah, you have sorry, we're talking to each other there a bit now. A dialect is changing what they say, that is, words and grammar, like Black Americans might say, he be playing. It's interesting. Okay, see, I was told, and it made sense to me, that it was basically, like I said a moment ago, something where it's only spoken, and it's changing how the written language is pronounced to the degree where you can no longer understand it. Say if you're French
some
speaker.
People wouldn't understand he be playing.
No, a lot of people won't. And when I read that, I'm like, yeah, it's cool. It's like gangster talk, right? But it's really poor grammar.
I don't think many people understand that difference then, or the actual definition of dialect, because even myself, I would say, they're speaking slang. I mean, I'm from Detroit. I'm well familiar with this dialect, if that is such the case, but I always just considered it slang.
Exactly, and I'm wondering if this is more of a problem with English speakers because we're so used to just speaking English and having no concept of bilingualism. And I wonder if people from any other country where they've had to learn English, whether they're more educated on this and they could help us define it better. That's maybe a question for some. Je voudrais savoir quels ont été vos points de départ en France et quelle est votre propre expérience, surtout au début, notamment en termes de langue et de travail. Point de départ en France. Est-ce que, Roberto, thank you for joining us, merci beaucoup. Est-ce que tu peux préciser ce que tu veux dire par vos points de départ en France?
Parce que
bonjour, je m'appelle Roberto, mon objectif est de partir vivre en France bientôt. Je voudrais pouvoir apprendre l'espagnol là-bas. Enseigner l'espagnol, apprendre, oui, means the same thing. Là-bas, aux des étudiants français. Ok. Moi, je n'avais... En termes professionnels, moi, je n'avais aucune expérience professionnelle en français. Moi, je travaillais pour une boîte anglaise à distance. Mais si toi, tu veux apprendre une langue au français, c'est très bien. Mais si tu parles le français, ça aide énormément. Mais en termes de langue, moi, quand je suis arrivé, j'avais un niveau vers B1, mais pas un niveau B1 à l'oral. À l'oral, je parlais très, très peu. Donc, je suis venu pour parler plus. Voilà. Oui, je vous remercie beaucoup et vous faites un excellent travail sur votre chaîne. Merci beaucoup, c'est très gentil. I love that talking about Motown and stuff. It's all like Motown, Michigan, having this little conversation. Okay, I think that might be good for today. I might have to go and take a break, guys.
An hour and a half, pretty well.
Hour and a half, pretty good, and we've kept the number pretty stable, so it's really fantastic.
Merci à tous. C'est vraiment cool.
Ouais, c'est vraiment cool, and I really want to thank you all again for being part of this growing. I'm not going to use the cheesy word of family, but this growing community that we have here. What are you making that face for? I've seen it on so many channels, and it's like, yeah, sure, it is, but for me, whatever the word, like community is so fantastic to grow your corner of the internet where you get to share just your views and your experiences is such an honor. And to know that 3,000 of you at some point in time have decided to commit to follow me every week means so much. And that number is already greater than I could ever sort of envisage. It's hard to even sort of quantify that, if you like, into something tangible. I can't imagine what 3,000 people in a room would look like looking at me. I'd probably be scared out of my mind to talk to you guys. But but thank you so much for joining us today. And
there was a question on whether this video will be available on your channel or not.
So I haven't decided yet whether I'm going to post this in one block, like the whole video, or whether I'm going to cut it up into manageable parts where we talk about one particular topic and post them as separate videos. Do let me know what you think. I might do just like the whole video to start with because it's easier, and then it's right up there, and then post it gradually in chunks. Thank you. Who said that?
That was way up.
Oh, way up.
Yeah.
Oh, good memory. Yes, thank you very much. I think Lamont, you're growing even faster than me. So congratulations to you as well. It's fantastic to see. Keep it up. Cool. So yeah, guys, if you want to ever get in touch with me, obviously in the comments on YouTube is great. I'm on Instagram, not just because it's a cool platform, but actually it's really great to have one-on-one conversations with you guys. So if you do have Instagram or even Facebook, do not hesitate to come and look me up and give me a message, and we can talk about your French. And I've got a lot of ideas in the works, so do keep your eyes peeled if you're liking what I'm doing, because it's only going to get bigger and better in the next weeks and months. So thank you so much for your support. It's wonderful to have you here with me and to share a beer. And I wish you all the best for the rest of the quarantine, and stay safe. And most of all, bon français.
À bientôt.
Ciao.
Nice, Jude.